If people type in, you can share that.
Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. During the Q&A session, if you'd like to ask a question over the phone, you may press star 1 on your phone. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. And now I'd like to turn the call over to Mr. Lloyd Roberts. Sir, you may begin.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the orientation webinar for the newly funded 2017 SAMHSA Criminal Justice Grants, including the Offender Reentry Program Grantees, the SAMHSA Adult Treatment Drug Court Grantees, the SAMHSA Adult Tribal Drug Court Grantees, the Family Drug Court Grantees, and the Veterans Treatment Drug Court Grantees. My name is Lloyd Roberts. I am one of the Criminal Justice Government Project officers at SAMHSA CSAT. I have clinical and administrative experience working with drug courts. I will be conducting this presentation with my colleague, John Berg, and I will let John introduce himself to you.
Hello, I'm John Berg. I'm also a government project officer with the criminal justice team here at SAMHSA with the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment. I'm the subject matter expert on the team and have been with SAMHSA for over 6 years. I want to welcome you as a new grantee and offer my congratulations. We look forward to working with you and hope that this webinar will be helpful in implementing your grant.
Roll call. Since we have 75 grants on the line, we will not be taking a formal roll call during today's presentation. To save time, each grantee was asked when they called in for their grant name and TI number, which was recorded. We will use this information to verify your attendance. If you have any challenges with this, please contact your GPO that you are assigned to, and that is also listed on the slides in this webinar. Today's agenda. An agenda was sent out to you before this webinar, and we have made some adjustment to account for more Q&A, which is questions and answers. The format will be presentations followed by 10 minutes of Q&A, discussions to answer any questions you may have. We will have presentations by SAMHSA Criminal Justice Program staff, grants management staff, and the clinical technical assistant contractor and data management staff. Please feel free to answer any questions. Now, to all of the project directors, please share this presentation with your staff. If you would like a copy of the PowerPoint and recording of this presentation, please make a request to JBS. Criminal Justice Government Project Officers. First, these are SAMHSA Government Project Officers in charge of overseeing the performance of the SAMHSA-funded criminal justice grants. The GPOs will help assist you in adhering to requirements of the grant award and in meeting your goals and objectives. John Borg, the following officers are John Berg, Arnold Crozier, Andrea King, Amy Romero, and myself, Lloyd Roberts. Shortly, I will tell you which GPO is assigned to your grant. Topics for today's discussion will include role of the government project officer, role of the grants management specialist, role of the project director, GPRA expectations, biannual reports, technical assistance, and grantee meetings. The next slide is Grantee Support Network. This graphic illustrates the dynamic that is crucial to the success of our grants, our grants. You, the grantee, resides at the center of this partnership. Support is provided by grants management and the GPO. The SPARS team and the SPARS help desk provide GPRA assistance through GPRA-specific technical assistance. The GPO, TA contractor, and JBS International provide training and technical assistance. Next slide. On the next slide, this is a team of GPOs that will be overseeing the specific FY 2017 grant portfolios. In the lineup, we have John Berg and Andrea King are the assigned GPOs for the Offender Reentry Program Grantees. Arnold Crozier and Lloyd Roberts and Andrea King will oversee SAMHSA Adult Treatment Drug Court Grantees. Arnold Crozier is also assigned to GPO. Arnold Crozier is also the assigned GPO for all of the newly funded adult tribal drug court grantees. John Berg and Amy Romero are the assigned GPOs for the family drug court grantees. And Lloyd Roberts and Arnold Crozier are the assigned GPOs for the veteran drug courts. If you are unsure who is your GPO, we will provide contact information at the end of this presentation, and you may contact them. Also, all new grantees should have received an email from this criminal justice listserv with your newly assigned GPO. It is important that all communication with SAMHSA staff or TA contract staff that you use SAMHSA TI number, your TI number, that's your grant number. Each of the GPOs on the CJ team works with multiple grants, so please be sure to add your TI number to your emails to avoid confusion. It really helps us to provide you with accurate information. And one other note, with the Veterans Drug Court, they're listed on the top, the last bullet, where you see SAMHSA Veterans Drug Court. I just need to add on there Lloyd Roberts. I had Lloyd Roberts and Arnold Crozier, but also Andrea King is also the GPO for the SAMHSA Veterans Drug Court also. Okay, so the role of the government project officer. Okay. The GPO role is to monitor the grant to provide assistance to the grantee to make sure you are successfully and to provide that you're successful and to provide oversight to make sure that funding provided by SAMHSA and ultimately the taxpayer is being spent appropriately according to the terms and conditions of the grant. The GPO is also here to make sure that you are accountable for spending your funding appropriately and that you are implementing your grant as stated on your application, or help you make adjustment to your program as appropriate to promote success. Your assigned GPO is your main point of contact at SAMHSA, and all programmatic issues related to your grant should be directed to him or her. The GPO can provide technical assistance and support, refer the grantee to other appropriate SAMHSA staff, or refer a technical assistant through our TA contractors. If he or she doesn't know the answers, they will direct you in the right direction. As you will hear many times today, TA is seen as a positive. If you are successful, we are successful. GPOs are here for your support. We can't help you if you don't reach out to us when you need help. The GPO also provides information about grants, their efforts and success to other SAMHSA staff, management, or other government agencies and Congress. Next slide. Role of grants management. Here's a brief overview of the role of grants management. However, Ms. Eileen Bermudez is the grants management specialist team leader, and we'll discuss this information in detail further during her section of this webinar shortly. Next slide. We have on here SAMHSA Grants Management Specialists. And I'll just briefly go through them so you should know. All new grantees should have received an email from the CJ listserv with their newly assigned GPO and their GMS, which is the Grants Management Specialist. In the beginning lineup, we have the Offender Reentry Program, that's Debbie Dunn. SAMHSA Adult Treatment Drug Court, you have Lisa Schreier. and Doug Lees. SAMHSA Adult Tribal Drug Court grants, we have Leslie Schreier, and Doug Lee. And also you have SAMHSA Family Drug Court grants. You have Tamara Baker. And again, at the last, you have your SAMHSA Veterans Drug Court, which is Leslie Schreier and Doug Lees. Next slide. The role of the project director. The project director should serve as the main point of the contact for program staff, communicate directly with the assigned GPO about grantee issues in a timely and accurate manner, including the grantee TI in all emails communication to SAMHSA staff. If another grantee staff member is communicating with a GPO, they must always CC the project director. Again, they must always CC the project director. When communicating by email with the GPO, always CC your GMS also. If the grantee needs to change project director, you must make the request in advance for the protocol that is provided by the grants management or your GPO.
Also, I'd add something, Lloyd, that if you're changing your project director, that the letter requesting the change needs to come from the authorized representative, copying the project director. Okay.
Okay. Next slide. The importance of the application. Okay. Yeah. It is important to read your application to familiarize yourself and your staff with what you have agreed to in implementing your program. If you are not fully staffed, plan to go over your application at a future staff meeting. The project director should be familiar with the FOA as it provides the structure and guidelines for your program. Knowing what is required by the FOA, it is very important to the success of your program. Everything is based off your application. The clients you will serve, the population of focus, the target numbers, the identified contractors, even evidence-based practices that will be implemented, etc. If it is not stated in your application or you plan to deviate from your application, you must discuss this with your GPO and GMS prior to any change. At this present time, I will pass it over to John Berg.
This year, SAMHSA awarded 75 criminal justice grants. All have at least one representative on today's webinar. We have 11 new offender reentry program grants, a total of 44 adult treatment drug courts, including 4 tribal courts and 4 veterans drug courts, and 20 family drug courts. All of the GPOs will be contacting the grantees in the near future. Regarding family treatment drug courts and offender reentry program grants, additional calls will be made by the GPOs for the family treatment drug court grants and the offender reentry program grants, or we call them ORP, to discuss specific program requirements. Each project director will receive additional information regarding these calls. The ORP call is scheduled for Monday, November 6, 2017 at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. An email should have been sent or was sent out by the CJ listserv, and all of the current project directors should have received that. If not, you can email me and let me know because we may have incorrect information. The call or webinar for the Family Treatment Drug Court project directors hasn't been scheduled at this point, so you will be receiving in the next few days information regarding that call. This year we funded some of our grants multi-year. There's 7 adult drug courts that were funded multi-year, and they're listed on this slide. And there are some additional requirements for multi-year funded grants, and so we have scheduled another conference call that will be held tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, only for the multi-year funded grants. And you all should have received an email also notifying you of when the call is and how to access the call. If you did not receive that, please email me and I will forward the information to you. SAMHSA GPRA reporting. Grantees are required to collect and report certain data so that SAMHSA can meet its obligations under the Government Performance and Results Modernization Act of 2010. The collection of these data will enable SAMHSA to report on key outcome measures relating to the grant program. In addition to these outcomes, data collected by grantees will be used to demonstrate how SAMHSA's grant programs are reducing disparities in access, service use, and outcomes nationwide. Grantees are expected to maintain 100% GPRA rates for intake and at least 80% for 6-month follow-up. GPRA rates are closely monitored by the SAMHSA GPO. If grantees have concerns about meeting required follow-up rates, they should discuss it with the GPO early. Regular communication with the GPO is imperative if a grantee is having difficulty serving the number of clients proposed in the application. There are 3 points of contact for GPRA, and actually Sarah will get into more detail in a few minutes, but I'm just going to highlight that the 3 points are at intake, 6-month follow-up, and a discharge. And the discharge can come before or after the 6-month follow-up, depending on length of time that the client is served, or if they should end treatment prior to the 6-month follow-up. All grants are required to submit biannual reports. The report should describe what has happened in the previous 6 months, including accomplishments and challenges. I will mention that for multi-year funded grantees, they are required to do a quarterly report, but we will discuss that during the multi-year funded conference call. So for all the other grants, and most of you, your first report is required April 30th, 2018, and the second one is October 31st, 2018. And the first report will contain information on the first 6 months, which is from September 30th through March 31st. And we'll provide a template for you in the future that you can use to provide the information for us with further directions on how to complete those. We have SAMHSA technical assistance through the SPAR system, which will actually be explained to you more in the future. You're encouraged to seek TA when needed to assist with successful completion of goals and objectives regarding your GPRA, intake and follow-up. So this is contact information for you. Now we have a mandatory grantee meeting scheduled early next year. It's for all new CJA grantees. It will be held late January is the plan right now, and the date to be determined, but it will be late January 2018 in the Washington, D.C. area. And the project director will be required, and we're still discussing which additional staff should attend. Additional information regarding the grantee meeting will be provided over the next few weeks. Since this wasn't announced in the FOA, grantees may move funding from other areas of the budget to pay for this training, which will include travel and hotel. There's no cost for the actual training. Typically, grantees have some unspent funds in the first year due to grant implementation, so this shouldn't be a problem. But if you foresee a problem, please let your GPO and GMS know. But I would discuss that first with the GPO. Okay, I also have a mandatory grantee meeting for the treatment drug court grantees. That will be in conjunction with the NADCP 24th Annual Training Conference. That one was mentioned in the FOA that you applied through. And this will be for all our current drug courts, not just new drug court grantees, but for all of the ones that we fund. The date is May 30th through June 2nd, 2018. It's in Houston, Texas. And the project director is required and 2 additional staff are allowed. We usually allow up to 5, but those details will be provided to you later on. So at this point, you can plan for 3 staff to attend this conference. But we will provide additional information regarding the grantee meeting early next year. And for this meeting, it will really only be probably 2 to 3 hours because it isn't our regularly scheduled grantee meeting with all the drug courts. But all of our drug court grants are encouraged to attend NADCP. We also have a mandatory grantee meeting for the Offender Reentry Program grantees, and this is our on-year. We tend to do these every other year. This one will be held in conjunction with the 24th National Task Conference on Drugs, Crime, and Reentry. Its on-site grantee meeting will be held on the 24th, the day before the National Task Conference begins, and then your staff is encouraged to remain for the National Task Conference. It is considered part of the grantee meeting, providing training for your staff. We are highly involved in planning for the conference, so it will meet the needs of our Offender Reentry Program grants. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida this year, and the project director and 2 additional staff are allowed to attend. And last year we were able to allow up to a 4th person, so we will let you know in the next few months if we're able to do that again. Watch for updates. Okay. Required actions for all grantees. These are a few that we wanted to highlight. Delivery of service should begin by the 4th month of the project at the latest. One of the most important aspects of the grant implementation is getting staff hired and on board so that you can meet this requirement. Please make hiring staff and getting them in place a priority. Make sure that you're working closely with partner agencies identified in your application so that all MOUs are in place and understood by current staff. These are the things that tend to slow up implementation of grants, so please pay attention to both of these points very closely. Most special terms and conditions were due by October 30th. Please make sure that your newly assigned GPO has received them. I know many were sent to either Amy Romero for our Family Drug Courts or to me, but I would have you check in with your newly assigned GPO to make sure that they have a copy of that also. Also, an important one is addressing behavioral health disparities. Information is available in the Notice of Award with a web link, and that is due November 30th. And I know some of you have already sent that in, and we appreciate your timeliness on that. So important funding information is SAMHSA grant funds are not allowed to be used for transitional housing such as halfway houses, sober living housing, etc. Notify your GPO if you have included transitional housing in your application so this can be discussed. For more information on disbursement of funds, the Payment Management System webinar is scheduled for Monday, November 13th, and your project director should have received an email from the CJ listserv. Hopefully it's not in your junk email. You might check for that because you may not have been aware that CJ listserv is sending out some of these announcements. Please check that out, and please plan on at least having your fiscal person attend that webinar. So the next slides just provide the contact information for all of our staff. And so if for some reason you didn't get some of the information we've been talking about, we will be happy to provide that to you. And also you will get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation through the listserv. JBS, our contractor, will forward that to you, so you will have all this information. What's that? Look at Amy. So we, at this point, I also want to note that we are recording this presentation, and we'll also let you know in the next couple of days how you can access this recording if you have additional staff that want or need to listen to these presentations. And please contact your GPO if you have additional questions that aren't covered today, or if something might be confusing or you just need some clarification. And at this point, we're going to open up for Q&A regarding this presentation.
The phone lines are now open for questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. If you'd like to withdraw your question, press *2. Thank you.
So we'll wait a minute and see if anybody has a question.
And again, to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name.
Right, and if we don't, we'll move on to Eileen Bermudez. As Lloyd mentioned earlier, she is the team lead for our grants management division, and will be presenting this section. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name, as Lloyd and John mentioned, is Eileen Bermudez. I am the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment and Prevention team lead. I'm also a specialist on several treatment grants. Today I am going to, some of our slides kind of coincide, so I'm just going to briefly go over some important facts and good information to Next slide. So this is some general information. We kind of discussed this. It's super important. I can't possibly stress it enough. Please read your notice of awards. It will identify your grants management specialist, your GPOs, and any specific and special things to your program, to your type of grant, and any specific special conditions that are applicable to your particular grant. As we mentioned, the GMS, Grants Management Specialist for Drug Court, Leslie Schreier, Doug Lees, Family Drug Court, Tamara Baker. I didn't include the offender reentry, but that is Debbie Dunn. Many of you are familiar with her. Next slide, please. These are the topics. I'm not going to read the slides to you only because it's good information just to have as a resource. But the next slide. So Lloyd went over several of the roles as far as grants management, project director, project officer, and so forth. So I'm going to give you the little spiel, I guess, for grants management roles. The Division of Grants Management is responsible for all the business management matters associated with the review, negotiation, policies, and procedures, and so forth. The grants management officer is the only individual that can sign off on notice of awards. It's the only person that can obligate federal funds. DGM, Division of Grants Management, works very closely with your program officers. We're constantly asking each other, what do you think about this? Does this revised budget make sense? Is this key staff approvable? We work very closely together. So I just wanted to know, as John had also mentioned, when you submit any request or any email related to grants management, always CC your GPO. Next slide. So the GPO, the Government Program Officer, is responsible for all programmatic and technical aspects of the grant. The grant specialist works on behalf of the GMO, and we're responsible for all the fiscal and administrative aspects. So any changes to your budget, to your notice of award, any fiscal reporting and so forth, you would contact the grants management specialist. Next slide. So just as I've discussed the responsibilities with, as far as grants management and program officers, there are other, although they may not all be identified as key staff on the notice of award, these three positions are very important as far as the actual grant and as far as the actual program. The authorized representative is the person who's totally responsible for the whole program. This is the person that signs the application, signs all the forms that comes with the application. This is a go-to person. If we can't get a hold of the project director, this is the person that we go to, we grants management. The project director is the person who handles the day-to-day management of the grant. That person is identified on the very first page of the notice of award. Also, that position is identified in the funding opportunity announcement and within the terms and conditions of the notice of award. The project director is the person that we, grants management, go to first and foremost, our primary contact. This person is also identified along with their contact information on the checklist form of the application you submitted. Another person that's identified on the checklist form is the business official. This is a person who receives all correspondence from DGM, being any letters for continuations, any type of correspondence, as well as all of the copies of the notice of awards. Very important is the contact information for this position is identified on the checklist form of the application, as well as that person, along with the authorized rep and the PD, have a Commons ID, are registered in ERA Commons. Next slide, please. So now that I mentioned ERA Commons, SAMHSA is transitioning to use ERA Commons. Some of you may have maybe a little familiar with it. We are totally pretty new to it, but we are transitioning to the ERA Commons. All of your post-award requests, all of your reporting requirements, namely the FFR, and some of the progress reports, your continuation applications, everything is going to be submitted through the ERA system. Very important. I can't reiterate this enough. Any emails that you receive, any correspondence that you receive on behalf of ERA, please read them. They will provide guidance on how to submit reporting requirements, applications, FFRs, and so forth. Very important. Please keep up with those emails. Again, the notice of award is the authorizing award document. It's the legal binding document that SAMHSA has in reference to your grant. All notice of awards will be electronically sent. Hard copies are no longer submitted. They're no longer mailed. Acceptance of the terms and conditions is acknowledgement that you are, when you're drawing down funds or otherwise obtaining grant payment system. Please, I'm stressing it again, read your notice of award very carefully. The next slide gives you the order of precedence. Of course, it's based on the legislature, program regulation, restrictions of federal funds, uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, the HHS policy statement, and of course, any terms and conditions that we've identified on the notice of award. Next slide, please. So you want to remember that when you submitted your application in response to a FOA or a funding opportunity application, announcement, sorry, your application was reviewed, scored, and funded. Any changes to that application could potentially require prior approval. Prior approval basically means that you're going to submit a request, CC the GPO and the GMS, include your request with detail. Most of the time it includes a budget of some sort. And once grants management reviews it, we forward it with our recommendation to your program person. They look at it programmatically, and once we both concur, we will issue a revised notice of award. There's no such thing as verbal agreement. If you didn't get the NOA, it was not approved. Please, it's not a bother, contact your GMS. If you submitted a request and maybe we haven't gotten around to it, but we will, don't go forth with making the change without receiving a notice of award. Next slide. So when you submit certain changes to your application or to your budget, and they require prior approval, we consider them as post-award requirements. Post-award requirements, there's all of these bullets, this list. However, the most popular ones are significant rebudgeting. So if you, let's say you budgeted too much under travel and you actually needed for supplies, you are allowed to move funds as long as your revisions or as long as the amounts that you're moving does not exceed 25% of your award without prior approval. Now, if it means that you're moving funds from travel to supplies, that might not require prior approval. But if you're revising your budget to approve key staff change, well, then that does require prior approval. So some of these may interact in various ways. Change of key staff, identified, remember the key staff is identified on the notice of award. Any changes require prior approval. Changes in the percent of the level of effort also. Changes scope. Remember, I always emphasize this. Any changes to your original application which was reviewed, funded, and scored could constitute change of scope. that requires prior approval. No-cost extensions, that's kind of a little a ways, but that also requires prior approval, as well as carryover authority. I won't be getting too far into carryover authority because that's going to happen a year from now, but I do want to let you know that if you have funds remaining from one budget period into another, you could possibly request to carry it over. It may require prior approval. Next slide. Continuations applications. So as I mentioned, you must be registered, your PD and your organization must be registered in e-Commons because you will be receiving guidance on how to submit your continuation applications. So I know right now you're in year one, you're thinking continuation application, that's way far off. This is really planning for your O2 budget year. We haven't set a date. It will be sometime, I'm going to take a guess, this year was sometime in March. So on or around that time, read your ERA emails. You will receive the exact due date. For multi-year funded grants, again, once you read your notice of award, you will realize that instead of submitting a continuation application, you will be responding to a special condition of award, and that will be identified in the conference call tomorrow. Next slide. Reporting requirements, not getting too far into the due dates for programmatic. Everything is identified on the notice of award. You do have to report quarterly to the Division of Payment Management, and at the end of every 12-month period, you will be submitting a federal financial report to us, the Division of Grants Management. And this is the link. And another reminder, please keep up with your ERA correspondence. Next slide. The federal financial report, like I said, it's due at the end of every 12-month period, no later than 90 days at the end of the budget period. So even though this seems really far away, you're currently in, maybe your start date was 9/30/2017 through 9/29/2018. So your first FFR will be due no later than December 30th, 2018. So it's a little ways, but I want to refer this slides so that you can have it as a reference. One of the things I didn't mention and is very important, please share, as a project directors, please share this presentation with your finance officer. Very important that they're aware of all due dates and different reports that are due. Next. So closeout, again, we're way far away from this, but just to give you a heads up, there's specific information that you need to submit. You will be needing to submit a final FFR that sums up all your expenditures, everything you authorized from the beginning of time through the end of the period, a progress report also, and there's some other tangible property forms that you will need to submit. The FFR the final FFR must not have any unliquidated, must not have a negative unobligated balance of funds, and you want to make sure that it reconciles with your payment management system. Next slide. Again, equipment, each item of equipment purchased under the grant with acquisition cost of $5,000 more. Supplies is any aggregate fair market value that exceeds $5,000. And there are specific forms that you'll need to fill out. Of course, that will be identified the last year of your grant. Grants management tips. I always like to, the next slide. I always like to include grants management tips. I know that you've already submitted your budget, so you pretty much already know this, but it's very important as far as grants management. You want to make sure that in order for us to determine that all the costs are reasonable, allocable, and allowable to your program, you must break down each cost. Under personnel, if you know the person's name, their title, their level of effort, the annual salary, what's the proposed salary. If it's in kind, we still need to know. Fringe benefits, travel, who's going where, how many days, what the mileage, and so forth. As much detail as you can provide. It's very important for us to determine that these costs are reasonable. Sometimes a lot of the delay is going back and forth Contractual, I always use the same example. Please do not include evaluator $30,000 and that's it. Please tell us what that $30,000 is, who the evaluator is, what are they going to be doing, and how did you determine that $30,000 is a reasonable cost? Same as with other. Next. Handy-dandy resources, ERA. I'm always mentioning that because that's the new thing that we have. Our website is very helpful. Please refer to it. I refer to it constantly. And the next slide. Any questions?
Okay. So we'd like to open it for questions at this point.
The phone lines are again open for questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. Thank you.
Seems to be a very quiet group today. We'll wait another few seconds, just in case. Okay, thank you so much, Eileen.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. So we'd like to turn it over to this point to Sarah. I'm not going to say her last name because I'll spot it. You can say it if you want so people know. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sarah Ndiangui. I am with the Performance Measurement Branch here at CSAT, and my main role is reporting our data to Congress and also managing our data collection. So we'll go over some of these points in terms of what's required for data collection.
I think there was a question. I'm sorry, Sarah. There was a question as far as how do you get copies of the slides?
Okay, and I'll answer that while we try to figure out what the problem is as far as moving our slides ahead, is that we will be sending them out from JPS. We will try to do it in an email, but if not, we'll provide instruction on how you can access it on our Ideas Exchange, which they will also describe in a few minutes how you get access to that. But we will try to email them. It may be too large a file to send for some of these. So that's usually why we post them, but you'll receive access for them. Okay, thanks.
Someone named Rita Weeks just asked the question.
Oh.
Rita Weeks just asked the question. Operator?
Yes, her name just popped up into the queue. Rita, if you're there, your line is open.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I had a question regarding the financial. I mean, you kind of went through it a little bit fast for me.
Uh-oh.
And but that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Are we going to be able to go back to the financial at some point?
We can ask, she wanted to know if we can go over those financials. Did you want to do follow-up questions after Sarah's presentation?
Yeah, go over the financials.
She had some questions as far as DGM.
Oh, yes. At the end of this, you can contact Eileen or your GM specifically, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the GMO? Okay, all right.
Grants Management Specialist identified on your notice of award. Depending what type of program you have, the very last page of the notice of award will identify who your Grants Management Specialist is.
Okay, I got that. Fine. All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you all make it all one presentation or was it another?
It's all one presentation.
I
don't know. Okay, so we're having problems with the slides.
Is it another presentation or is this the last one for this and is it another one I'm supposed to open?
I don't think so. It's all one. No, they don't. We'll just go ahead. Operator, we're having problems with forwarding the slides. Is that something you can do or help us with? Okay.
So this is Sarah Ndiangui. I'll start over. I'm with the Performance Measurement Branch here at CSAT, and my main role is for reporting to Congress on our data and managing the data collection for discretionary grants. So we'll go over some of the requirements for this grant program, or for your grant program. So what is the GPRA, or what do we refer to as the Government Performance Results Act? It was enacted in 1993, and it was updated in 2010. The next slide has a link that you can read about the Modernization Act of 2010. This was established to ensure reporting is linked directly to the resources that were used by our grant programs. And the link is at the bottom. More on the purpose of the GPRA, it's to increase accountability for federal agencies for their spending, initiate program performance improvements, improve effectiveness of the agencies because they now can focus on the results that they achieve, improve service delivery by focusing on customer service or the end user. These are our treatment clients. Improve congressional decision-making by giving quantifiable evidence to Congress that shows the results each agency is achieving, and improve internal management by our GPOs, by your project director and program staff, by holding management accountable for the results of their areas of responsibility. So on our data collection, and we'll talk about this in a different slide, you have access to doing reports or running reports, or you may also download your data and do your own analysis. So your management team is also responsible for your results. The 7 CSAT-GPRA measures, we'll go over the 7 requirements that we call the national outcome measures that are required for our reporting here at SAMHSA. The first one is abstinence, which is addressed in Section B of the tool, drug and alcohol use. This question captures the past 30-day use of alcohol and illegal drugs. The second one is stability in housing, which is addressed in Section C of the tool. The section is family and living conditions. These questions capture the client's current living situation and impact of their drug use and the state of the client's children.
Got a note that was exception to that?
For which question?
For the abstinence, what, past 90 days?
Go ahead. For the abstinence John just mentioned, for the CJ programs, you have an exception. You can ask abstinence for the past 90 days, not 30 days.
Prior to incarceration.
The third measure is employment. This is found in Section D, education, employment, and income. This question covers information about the client's education, employment, and financial resources. And the fourth measure is crime and criminal justice status, which is addressed in Section E of the tool. These questions cover information about the client's legal history. The fifth measure is health, behavioral, and social consequences, which is addressed in Section F of the tool. These questions cover information about the past 30 days of the client's mental and physical health. It also collects information about the client's sexual practices or risk for HIV. The sixth measure is the social connectedness, which is addressed in Section G of the tool. These questions cover information about the past 30 days of the client's social and recovery support. And recently this year, we added a seventh measure. This is the recovery support. The questions are found in Section C, D, F, and G. And these questions were derived from the WHO Quality of Life Index. So our data collection website is called SPARS. What is it? SAMHSA Performance. What is it?
Look it up.
I can't remember.
I'm not sure. Is that terrible?
So this is our landing page, and once you log in, your username will be at the top right where you see Dantrell Simmons. And on the left side of the landing page after you log in, you would click on data entry or reports if you wanted to run reports, or you can also do a data download. Every grantee has access to only their own data. You can run reports to compare your own program versus the entire cohort, but you would not have access to anyone else's data. The current reporting tool, make sure that you download it from the website. It was recently updated in April, and on the title, it would say last updated or last revised 4/24/2017, so this April. The CSAT-GPRA tool contains items or questions taken from widely used data collection instruments. Some of the examples are the Addiction Severity Index, McKinney Homeless Program Reporting System, the AIDS Risk Assessment, and as I mentioned before, we also have the WHO Quality of Life Assessment that speaks to recovery. For the CSAT-GPRA reporting tool, this examines the effectiveness of the program to expand capacity and demonstrates the effectiveness of the program to improve client outcomes. We also use it to inform Congress of treatment effectiveness and of outreach effectiveness. So one of the things that's very important about the GPRA reporting tool is to make sure that you collect data at intake, at follow-up at 6 months, and also during the discharge interview. The discharge interview, I wanted to mention that it's very important because that is where we can do analysis on services provided. So if you only stop at 6 months, then we don't know which services you actually provided. But from the baseline, we have the services that you plan on providing. So the discharge interview is very important for us to be able to run analysis on evidence-based programs or promising practices. Another thing I wanted to mention that John also mentioned is at intake, you should have 100% of your target number. At follow-up, you're required to maintain an 80% follow-up rate. If you have higher than 80, that's excellent. And you're also required to enter your data 7 business days from the day you completed the interview. And there is the SPARS. It stands for SAMHSA's Performance Accountability Reporting System. And to get access, the project director would fill out a form that lets us know the people who need access, whether they are data entry personnel or evaluators, and their role in the system so that we can provide access. So who wants to know about the national outcome measures or the GPRA measure that we spoke about, the 7 measures? We have Congress, the Office of National Drug Control Policy from the White House, CSAT, senior leadership at SAMHSA, and also the Department of Health and Human Services, state, local, and tribal governments, and provider organization. And for the provider organization, this data can be very useful in planning your sustainability. Some of the things that we have to report on is were the funds put to good use, and was there expansion of services to target population? What were the client outcomes, which are the measures we report back on? And did the clients, the ultimate goal is if we reduce drug use to clients. As a grantee, what's in it for me? Next. This ensures better project management. Like we mentioned, you can run reports from the system and see if you're on track for the 100% in intake and 80% follow-up. This also helps you as a management tool, helps you keep track of follow-ups that are due before the due date. And for the follow-up, they're due 30 days before the 6 months and also 60 days after. So you have a 90-day window that you can do your follow-ups or complete your follow-ups. It also helps make informed decisions through the use of data. Like we said, you can run reports monthly, document your project for reporting purposes and sustainability, and provide your organization with information for future funding. So you can also report on your successes and anything that you had to make adjustments to your program to improve your program success. Next. So the reports that are currently available in the system include the intake coverage reports. So you would see if you're on track for the 100% for your target number. The follow-up rate reports that tells you when some of the follow-ups are due and also if you're meeting your 80% follow-up rate. The outcome change report that tells you about your measured successes this compares your intake data versus your follow-up data. And the frequency report that you can select which drugs or which measures you want to know, and you can run frequency reports on this. The project resources required, this is a team effort which involves the project director, your local evaluator, and if you have data or research staff, the clinical staff, and including your administrative staff who are responsible for entering the data. Also remember that if you're having any difficulties, please reach out to the help desk if it's a data question, or you can always contact your GPO. It's very important that you have your TI number, your grant ID number on the subject line so that we can get you the right resources. We also have training available online. So you would click on the online learning center, and we have on-demand courses, live webinars that are always scheduled on the calendar to the right, and recorded webinars. After every webinar, we post the same webinar back. So if you're not available for the live webinar, it's always archived and you can listen to it later. You can also provide this to all your new staff members as you onboard. And some of the trainings available currently are Grantee orientation, introduction to follow-up, advanced follow-up techniques, the GPRA data entry. If you have new personnel, this would be important for them. How to run reports and how to download your own data. Using dashboards to manage performance. And the dashboards, we don't currently have them live on SPARS, but we are working on going live in the next month. So this will be available. We had it previously, and we are making some improvements. And how to use technology to improve your follow-up. Please make sure that the people who are working on the grant, that the help desk has the right information, contact information, which includes your GPO, because we send out monthly notices about new upcoming trainings and how to register and participate. The next slide has a list of other available trainings. And the next slide gives you the website URL. And another thing important about the trainings is after every training, we post frequently asked questions from each of the trainings. So if you attend a training and hear a question that you want more feedback on, just wait for the frequently asked questions that are posted at the same time with the recorded webinar. We also have technical assistance available. So from the SAMHSA's website, you would click on Request TA. It's one of the tabs, and you would enter your request, whether it's for data entry, whether it's for follow-up. And we also provide training for one particular grantee or a group setting. So if we have the same questions from similar grants, we'll schedule a webinar for everybody. But if you have a specific question just for your grant program, we can also have individual training available. And this is at no cost to the grantee. The next slide has our contact information number and emails. Please copy your GPO on all emails to the help desk as well as to the GPRA data collection staff. And please include your TI number in your email so we can send you the correct resources. And we'll take any questions.
Operator, if you could open up for questions at this time.
Sure. Again, the phone lines are now open for questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody knew them.
So,
there are a few questions in the queue. The first one is from Margaret. Your line is now open.
Hi, I'm the evaluator on an Oklahoma Family Drug Court grant, and I was just curious about whether, in addition to GPRA, other performance measures were going to be expected of grantees, if they're going to be presented today or later, and whether any type of data dictionary is going to be released.
there are additional ones required per the FOA, and those will be discussed during the first webinar that we have with all the family drug courts. And you'll be receiving information in the next day or two regarding when that's set up. So we won't discuss those today.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And then we have a question from Rita. Do you have a question regarding financial? Do you want to?
I think we answered hers, but we didn't answer Cammie Noah.
Yeah, we
Yes,
already we have.
Okay. Moving on.
So do we have any other questions?
Yes, there are a few more questions in the queue. The next one is from Melody. Your line is now open. Melody, if you're there, your phone may be muted, but your line is now open.
Hi, yes. I have a question about the 90 days use. So is it 90 days completely, or is it 90 days prior to incarceration when we're going over the GPRA? And do we report, because it asks for how many days, do we report a full 90 days worth of use if that's what they're stating?
Yeah, it's 90 days prior to incarceration, and you would report the number that they tell you. So if it's all 90 days, that you would enter 90.
Okay, thank you.
Next question in the queue is from Susan. Your line is now open.
Hi, thanks. My program, the grant we got is to put enhancements into the program, add additional things, recovery support services, trauma treatment, et cetera. So I'm anticipating that a lot of my current people are going to be getting those services and that I should count them. When would their intake technically be? So they've already been in the drug court program, but they're going to be receiving these additional services once we get them on board. And I'm just wondering how I would enter the intake for them.
The intake would be when you're planning to provide treatment services. So that would be the date that you enter on your intake when you actually conduct that intake interview with them.
Okay. One last question. One of the components that we're adding is upgraded drug testing. We've already started doing that. Do I need to now intake everybody who's getting that and then just go forward from there?
Yeah, if they're receiving SAMHSA funded services, yes.
Okay. And should I go back to the day that we started that? That was like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a bunch of interviews. All right. That's my question. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Next question. The next question in the queue is from Camilo. Your line is now open.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Camilo with Clark County here in Vancouver, Washington. So my question is around Section A of the GPRA tool around planned services. So my question is this. In years past, we've had previous grants, and it was decided by site in terms of which ones are to be marked. So my question is there a determined, by SAMHSA, determined services that is required, or what is it that you guys need from us?
In Section A, you would actually select all that apply to that particular client. So sometimes I wouldn't recommend checking all of them because it doesn't apply to everybody.
Correct.
So only the ones that apply to that client and you actually have the resources, you're going to be providing those services.
Correct. So in terms of the reconciliation at the end, again, my question is per service, per participant, and the reconciliation piece, that is the number amount of how many times they actually receive services. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So is it then a site-specific that determines which one of these do we mark, or I had heard you mentioned SAMHSA-specific or grant-specific services that's within our NOA or our I guess our grant, our proposal.
Services provided by SAMHSA.
Yeah, be services provided by SAMHSA.
Under this particular grant?
Correct.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. So, all right, we will hash that out within our organization then.
Our reporting is looking for impact by this funding on your clients. Congress wants to know if these funds are being used effectively and efficiently and making a difference in the community. So we're really looking for what you're using these funds for to improve the client's well-being.
Okay.
We're looking for impact.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Do you have any other questions?
There is one more question in the queue from Misty. Your line is now open.
My question was answered. It was about the baseline and 90 days prior to incarceration. Thank you.
Great. We did have a question about financial, and Eileen is still here, so if that person is handy and you want to ask the question now, you can. Is that Rita? Okay, yeah, Rita, if you...
I think we did it, didn't we? No, we referred her to her GMS, but if she wants to ask the question, we can go ahead and ask.
that was, okay. Yeah, so this is specific to a grant. It'd be best to just direct that to your grants management specialist, sorry. Okay. Any more questions at this time then?
I'm showing no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then to Rachel Garcia with our contractor, JBS International. Thank you, sir. So take it away, Rachel.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Garcia, Technical Assistant Manager for JBS International. As Criminal Justice Technical Assistant Managers, we are responsible for managing technical assistance requests and ensuring delivery. I will be providing you information on requesting technical assistance, electronic communication mechanisms, and the biannual quarterly report process. Next slide, please.
Sorry, it's a little stuck. Okay. What did you do last? Sorry, our slides are stuck, Rachel.
It goes to everybody else.
Oh, what did you do last time?
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry. Give us a moment. Sorry, Rachel.
No problem.
Does it go backwards?
What about if you hit escape since you hit the button so many times?
Well, that's okay, even to leave it at that if it'll advance. Just see if it'll advance.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll take the next slide. Yeah,
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Requesting technical assistance instructions and process. Next slide, please. What is technical assistance? Technical assistance is a tool offered to grantees to help elevate your program and provide support so that you can meet your grant's goals and objectives. It's important to remember that TA is meant to enhance your program and offers an opportunity for you to make positive strides with the functioning and operations of your grant. Technical assistance is intended to have a positive implication and is at no cost to you. Next slide, please. JBS is the clinical TA contractor for SAMHSA criminal justice grantees. JBS, with approval from your SAMHSA GPO, will be your partner in the TA process and help you to address any programmatic needs with which you may need assistance. Our collaborative relationship focuses on assessing your needs and creating individualized service delivery that becomes an actionable plan. Next slide, please. There are several different types of TA that JBS has delivered to grantees. The most requested types of TA include sustainability, client recruitment and retention, training on evidence-based practices such as motivational interviewing, speaking safety, and many others. Other highly requested TA include roles and responsibilities, sanctions and incentives, and program policies and procedures. Keep in mind that this is not an exhaustive list. Please let us know how we may assist you, and we will identify a consultant to address your needs. You may also recommend a consultant for your TA request. Next slide, please. There are several ways in which TA can be delivered. TA can involve grantee meetings, trainings, or having a consultant provide on-site assistance or engaging in telephone consultation. TA can also be provided electronically through online webinars and through the Ideas Exchange. Ideas Exchange is a web portal that houses publications, toolkits, discussion boards, and other resources. More information about this system will be provided later on in this presentation. Next slide, please. What is the process? Before requesting TA, you must first have a conversation with your government project officer. Your GPO can assist you in drafting the TA request so that the information and the needs are clear and specific. Next slide, please. To initiate a TA request, please go to the SAMHSA SPARS website at spars.samhsa.gov and follow the instructions. Please include as much information as possible, including a summary of the issue, who the target audience will be, and a consultant's name and contact information if you have someone in mind. Once the form is in the system, your GPO will review your request. Once approved, your request will then be forwarded to JBS. Next slide, please. Once all approvals have been made by SAMHSA and a conversation with JBS and the grantee has occurred, a conference call with the GPO, grantee, consultant, and JBS is scheduled for clarification of the TA and the next steps. TA goals and objectives are established to best address clinical and/or programmatic needs. Next slide, please. During the TA, consultant, along with JBS, will manage and implement activities to achieve the overall purpose of the site visit or conference call. conduct an on-site visit or conference call as scheduled, provide preliminary briefings to project director, and conclude with a team debriefing. After the TA has concluded, a report is submitted by the consultant to JBS that summarizes the TA and includes any recommendations or next steps for the grantee. This report is then forwarded to the GPO for approval and then sent to the grantee. Does anyone have any questions pertaining to the TA process?
The phone lines are now open for questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. There is a question in the queue from Camilo. Your line is now open.
Actually, my question was for the last presenter.
No, fair.
The last presenter is not here.
You can go ahead and ask the question, sir, and we can refer it if we can't answer it. Sir, you want to go ahead and ask the question, and we can refer it accordingly?
My question was in regards to the GPRA, the planned services.
Uh-huh.
It was already recorded from the last one.
We can't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. What is your question?
My question was in regards to GPRA, the GPRA tool. I asked it in the last presenter.
Oh, so you don't have a question now?
No, I do not.
Okay, sorry. Any other questions, Monitor?
I'm showing no further questions at this time.
If there are no more questions, we will move on to electronic communication mechanisms. Next slide, please. The SAMHSA Criminal Justice Grantee Listserv is a form of communication commonly used to deliver information from SAMHSA to grantees at the request of SAMHSA Criminal Justice Government Project Officer. Examples of listservs include information regarding webinars, trainings, funding opportunities, grantee meetings, and grant requirements. Please make sure to add cjlist@jbsmailhost.com to your contacts so that the emails don't wind up in your spam box. In some cases, it may be necessary to work with your IT department to ensure that you are receiving the listserv messages. If you need to speak with your IT department, please let them know that the listserv address needs to be whitelisted. They will understand and respond accordingly. Currently, the project directors are listed on the listserv, but if you would like to add other key staff, please send Sharon Ondeji, Criminal Justice Technical Assistant Manager, at sondeje@jbsinternational.com an email with the name, title, email address, and phone number of the person you would like to add. Next slide, please. The Ideas Exchange is an online collaborative community where grantees can network, learn, and problem solve with one another. It is designed to meet your unique needs while taking into account collaborative opportunities and best practices across all program areas. The IE encourages sharing of innovative ideas, approaches, and promotes a sense of community. In the upcoming weeks, you will receive information via listserv on how to log on to Ideas Exchange. The Criminal Justice homepage displays several different features. Here you can learn what's happening in CJ and other areas. On the activity stream, you can stay updated on new resources, events, and discussions, as well as access the Criminal Justice online modules. On the discussion page, you can start a discussion with your peers to gain insight or get answers to your questions. On the resource page, you can also view videos and look up resources that can assist you with your grant program or share resources with others. Please make sure that if you share resources, that they are public information and not subject to copyright protections. The Grantee Journey Map is a tool available on the Ideas Exchange to help you learn about the grantee journey and to connect you with helpful resources along the way. The Grantee Journey Map is organized into several phases: orientation, the first 3 months of your grant; implementation, from the 4th month to the 12th month; and reflection and sustainability for years 2 and 3. The slide is displaying the Getting Started page, which is a part of the orientation phase. You can view helpful resources and tools under each phase of your grant. On this page, you will find tips, information, and a checklist to assist you as you begin your journey. The Learning Management System, LMS, is accessible through the Ideas Exchange. Therefore, your same login and password will gain you access to the LMS. The LMS offers several different training modules which you can access at your convenience and complete at your own pace. Available modules include partnerships and linkages. Other training modules include R&R, Trauma-Informed Approach, and others. This slide shows the homepage for LMS. Once you have gained access to LMS, please follow the instructions to disable your pop-up blockers in order to view the modules. Courses are available for everyone in your program. Once you complete the modules and take a test, you can receive continuing education hours. You can access the modules through the Ideas Exchange. The website and access information will be provided in a few weeks. JBS is in the process of gathering all the information for the newly funded project directors. Once this step is complete, you will receive an invitation to join IE and LMS and be provided with a login and password. For information or questions regarding Ideas Exchange and Learning Management System, please contact Sarah Gottschall, Criminal Justice Technical Assistant Manager at sgov@jbsinternational.com. Are there any questions regarding any of the electronic systems covered in this presentation?
And again, if you would like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. Thank you.
If there's no questions at this time, we can move ahead, and then you can hold the questions to the end and ask them at that point.
If there are no more questions, we will now discuss the biannual and quarterly report process. Next slide, please. Purpose of reports. Biannual or quarterly reports are required as outlined in the terms and conditions of your grant. These reports allow you to inform your GPO about your progress, successes, barriers, and their resolution. Biannual reports are required twice a year. If you have received a multi-year funded grant, you will need to submit quarterly reports, which are due 4 times a year. The suggested template to submit for either biannual or quarterly reports is available on the Ideas Exchange website. JBS will also send the template to all new grantees via listserv before the first report is due. Grantees need to submit a copy of their biannual or quarterly reports to their assigned government project officer. In addition, a copy of your report will need to be provided to your grants management specialist and to the technical assistant contractor, JBS. For report submissions to your grants management specialist, use the email address dgmprogressreports@samhsa.hhs.gov. For report submissions to JBS, use the email address granteereports@jbsinternational.com. Grantees should include their federal grantee ID number in the subject line of the emails for all communications and rename the report to include your federal grantee ID number. The federal grantee ID number is the number that begins with either TI-02 or TI-08. In total, you will need to submit your reports to 3 different parties: the Government Project Officer, Grant Management Specialist, and JBS. Biannual quarterly report process. Upon receipt, the member of the JBS team logs the completed report into a database and emails an acknowledgement of receipt to the grantee. Grantees should save a copy of email from JBS as proof of submission. If you experience any issues with submission of biannual quarterly reports, please email Deidre Walls, Criminal Justice Technical Assistant Manager at dwalls@jbsinternational.com. Past due notices. JBS will follow up with grantees regarding any past due or late reports via a listserv notice. Past due notices are sent to the entire cohort. However, only grantees who have not submitted their report by the deadline will need to respond to the notice. This slide lists the report due dates for newly funded CJ grantees. Please note you will also receive a reminder from the listserv before your report is due, which will offer you ample time to complete your report before your deadline. The next few slides outline the content for your biannual quarterly reports. The first section on the report template asks for the grantee identification information that is on this slide. Please also include any updated grantee information on every report submitted. The second section addresses changes in key personnel. Please remember that you must submit a request to your GPO for formal project director or key staff changes. Please make sure you answer all questions. If the question is not relevant, please state NA or not applicable. The third section addresses project information. Include a list of organizations where you have referred clients and partners in the community, and include information regarding your GPRA data. The project narrative section asks a series of questions about your project. Please respond to each question. Are there any questions regarding progress reports?
And once again, if you would like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. Thank you.
If we can show next slide as well, please. If you have any specific questions regarding any of the processes discussed in the presentation, on this slide you will also find contact information for technical assistant managers responsible for each area. If there are no more questions, thank you everyone. This concludes the JBS presentation for today. If you have any questions after the presentation, my contact information is on the slide. I will now turn the webinar back over to Lloyd Roberts and John Berg.
Thank you, Rachel. We appreciate your presentation. And so we open it up if there's any questions about anything that folks would like to ask at this point. So we'll open it up again, hit *1, right?
Yes, sir. Hit *1 and record your name.
One thing that I'll respond to is that there's questions about the PowerPoint presentations, and we said they'd be posted on the Ideas Exchange. We will split this presentation up if we have to send out at least a couple of these presentations. It seems to me in the past we have had some problems with one of the presentations because of the size, but we will try to get them out to you through the listserv since you at least won't have access to the Ideas Exchange for a couple of weeks. We want you to have this information in front of you, so we will do the best we can to get each of these presentations out to you through the listserv. Any questions come through
I'm showing no questions at this time.
Okay. So, would you have anything?
This is Lord Roberts, also a GPO. Just want to remind all of the project directors to make sure you get to know who your business official is and the authorized representative, and have every now and then a good meeting with them, so when there's any issues and stuff with the grant, you have a good rapport or coordination with them to address issues, okay?
Okay. So we will provide information for you regarding the recording so that you can access that. That will be through the IDs Exchange, so you won't be able to access that for at least a couple of weeks, but it will be posted. And we want to thank you for your time and attendance today for this presentation or presentations, and appreciate your work getting this, your grants implemented, and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you so much for taking time out today with us. Have a great day.
This concludes today's call. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.